Oh, there he is. Esteban, how are
Hey,
you?
how you doing, guys?
Good.
Whatsoever.
Before we get started, I want to say, there are a lot of people that I've learned from along the way, right? In my journey of agave spirits, and a lot of what I learned was in Oaxaca. Um, and they've got such a specific they the people that I learned from have such a specific way of viewing agave spirits in general and mezcal specifically. And you helped me, I don't want to say unlearn, but you helped open my eyes to the fact that just because they do something in this community this way, it's not how they do it everywhere. And there's so many different definitions and so many different practices and cultures. So you open my eyes to that, and really opened my palate to that. And like I've quoted you so many times when people start talking sustainability, because you're the first guy who I heard say sustainability isn't the important thing, it's best practices. And it made me rethink what sustainability is and what we're trying to do to this planet. So anyway, thank you for that. And
Yeah, those are some big shoes, Esteban. He always quotes you at the podcast all the time. So
Um,
I almost dislike you a little bit, but because of that, Esteban.
I cannot be more thankful, and uh, has been an amazing journey that many families allowed me to share with and show me the way, and also learn from them. So the only thing I can do is trying to share all these things that I learned from them to other people, and in a humble way, and not as a truthful, just like an opinion and an option. And then every single one has to go and learn themselves and compare and trying to find their own way of thinking in all this, because as social media wants to take us to black and white, there is a bunch of gray that is the most beautiful place in the planet. So
Yeah.
that's
I like
beautiful. That's poetry. I love that.
I like to live in the gray.
So tonight we are tasting the people who have the Tabernas. Wait, did everybody get the? No, some people got the Tabernas 3 and some people got the Tabernas 2, but some people, like in Chicago, I know we're having the first kiss of your third release of the Tabernas. Tell us about it.
So Tabernas was a really pop-up project with for one opportunity. You know, I was in a reunion with producers in Mascota, and one of them get close to me and say, you know, try my Raicilla. I have a little more than 3,000 liters that I need to sell. I need to get cash flow again and reinvest it in the fields and in the taberna to keep working. So they offer a really good deal if we buy it all by one. So I didn't have the money in my pocket to say yes. So I call Arik and say, okay, we have this chance. What do you think if we just translate that opportunity directly to the consumer and put on the shelves an inexpensive raicilla and see how the people react? And and so he said, yes, let's do this, without knowing how this decision will take us to a completely different journey. So the first reaction is it was slow. So the price point, it was not just making decision for the consumer to buy a
Hmm.
raicilla. So the first learn was to keep working to teach what raicilla is, and we also learned that the price point is not the broken point for buying. So, but we wanted to keep this concept. So we're looking for the second chance. So I found, and I know Chalio, that is the second batch in the coast of Jalisco. He's one of the oldest producers down there, and he having a heart condition for long after a surgery. So he stopped working for more than 6 years, and he was sitting in around 5,000 liters of Raicilla for all those years. So also he needed to sell a big batch to get traction again. So we do the same. So we get a good deal and fast on front money for him, and put it in amazing Raicilla with more than 6 years sitting in a stainless in an amazing price. So it was a jewel in a $30 out there. So
And, and and would that be lot A5 by any chance?
what?
Is it lot A5? Was that the
A
second tabernas?
No.
You're getting into
A5.
trouble.
Sorry, there
No,
was a question. I'm trying to help Jenna with a question. It's okay.
it,
Keep going. I think Arik is going to go grab a bottle and let us know.
Well,
I think it's from
I have Tabernas too. It's lot 4.
Lot 4. Okay, so
Yeah.
Jenna with A5, you've probably got lot 3. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
T. Is T, no, A, maybe.
Oh,
Maybe. I don't know.
maybe. Oh, anyway.
Because T of Tabernas and
T.
T.
Oh. A, T, they all
So
look the
the
same.
Oh,
next,
can I just to also add in Tabernas, if I may, Esteban, Tabernas,
yeah,
it means distillery in that region, and the
yeah.
idea for how to bring this project into to the people with clarity was to call it Tabernas, the distilleries, and we wanted to keep bringing great product, over deliver, and it's really a testament to Esteban's connection to all the different people there, and he's really the batch hunter. He's hunting these really special batches that we're
Boy,
able to bring.
it's a fascinating approach when you think about it, because what you're trying to do is make this a really affordable raicilla, right? But you're doing it with these really rare batches that won't be produced again. It's not like you've got one place making it over and over again, which makes each release so unique, which is the opposite of what I think of, at least when I think of these affordable bottles. It's interesting.
Thing is, mezcal is just getting expensive and expensive and expensive, and sometimes seems like the people is in a competition, in running competition of finding the the more special batch, the most rare batch, the most far away producer, and trying to find the way to just justify and a huge amount of money on that bottle. And we do the opposite. So we're trying to make money in the pockets of the producer the faster as we can.
Nice.
To so let can keep going and keep producing and keep doing what they do the best. And so we cut all our like big part of the profits and marketing and all that stuff. So for the people that has Tabernas number 2, this is made by Chalio Rodriguez in the municipality of El Tuito. In the agave is Chico Aguiar. It's an angustifolia, and I'm gonna go deep in this, and I'm maybe gonna support Roberto in what he's explaining before. And as Oaxaca sales numbers keep the 90% of the mezcal sales worldwide, every single person that listen Angustifolia, they connect straight to the biggest relation, and it's Espadin. But I like to take the consumers again into the logic of how big is the agave genus. We know grapes, and grape is one variety of a plant. And each wine that you know, and each type of wine you drink, like Cabernet, Zinfandel, Pinot Noir, Tempranillo, Merlot, Carmenere, you name it, is a subspecies of a grape. So when we are calling Angustifolia, is one variety, is the variety of a plant. So just Angustifolia has more than 40 subvarieties in Mexico. And each subvariety can be as different as Pinot Noir and Cabernet.
And I love this, Esteban, because I also think this is so under researched. I think
Completely.
so many of these species, just no scientist that had the funding or the excuse or the time to name all of these things. So this is if we were in wine 200 years ago. I don't even know if 200 years ago, maybe they already had more funding to name subspecies of grapes than in the whole wine context, right?
Yep. Just one variety of agave.
Wow.
And so Pacifica is completely different agave to Spadin, even if they are the same variety. And that's is something that increased maybe the people to research and go further and deeper. So this journey doesn't end, never. So welcome and enjoy the ride. And is the way it is. So Chico Aguiar is a subvariety of Angustifolia that grow in Jalisco and has a lot of richness in sugar content. So it makes a really good quality mezcals and good yield too. And the process that Chalio use is a ground oven roasted with rocks, wood and rock, and then milled in a mechanical grinder, as similar of what Roberto used and other producers. The region used to mill it by hand in a tree trunk kind of a canopy, but they stop already. It's not good for the back of anyone.
Yeah.
So nobody pays that, therefore nobody really and find any difference between the flavors. So they decided to change and have a little better quality of life. And then after meal, he ferments in stainless steel, 200 liters stainless steel little containers, and then still it twice in Philippine style, like internal condensation, with exactly the same tree trunk design of the region, but made it by stainless steel.
Oh, okay. We need to explain this though. And
Yeah.
this is gonna be so hard, Esteban, because I don't know if everybody is very familiar with the specific type of Filipino steel that they use in Raicilla country. So I think even internal distillation might not be very familiar for most folks. Uh, so
Let me
if you have a
see.
picture, it'll be awesome. But I think what you're trying to explain is even the top, the condenser, has the same shape as the wood ones that they typically use. It's just that it's made out of stainless steel, correct?
Yep. I don't have the picture of Chalio right here, but definitely if I may show my screen.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
You,
Yeah, hang on.
Well, something that I'd like to say just while you find that is that in Mexico is so special when you talk about spirits because we have both the European and the Asian tradition of distillation in terms of the equipment that is being used. And I am not sure that that happens anywhere else in the world. And it's an extremely difficult history that's still being studied. But a lot of people think that it has to do with the fact that the Spaniards had a colony in the Philippines and that a lot of this technology traveled via the Philippines, Acapulco, dispersed all around Mexico, and then made it to places where it was not
yep.
endemic.
So yep. Spaniards. Do you saw my screen, like the picture of the steel?
We're not seeing the picture yet. We're just saying.
Oh, no,
We're
we're
seeing
seeing.
your menu, your folder.
Really? All
Yeah.
right. Let me try again.
If you want to send it to me, if you just like send it over to me in a text, I can use it as a background.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think it's really needed for people to see this crazy thing because I think for people that are very much into distillation, it's gonna make their minds blow a little bit.
Yeah.
Let me try it now.
There
Yeah.
you go. Yep.
Okay.
I love this.
So, okay, the Chava was talking how the Philippines arrived in Mexico. It was in the late 1600s because the Spaniards has both colonies, Philippine colony and all uh, Mexico's Central and South America also colony and the half part of United States today. And they learn in Philippines that the coconut makes a lot of like good fiber, food, oil, and they practically use everything that came out of the cocoa. So the idea was to bring Philippines to Mexico to farm a coconut um, in the haciendas. So they arrived to Acapulco. It was the biggest port in the colony, and they just realized that the coastal line between the sea and the mountains in Guerrero and Oaxaca is very short. So there is not flat lands to make like a big farm of coconut palm. So they took the boat again and sailed north to the second biggest port in the colony, that it was San Blas in the state of Nayarit today. And from there, start looking around, and they found amazing tropical weather flatlands between Colima and Jalisco. So they established the colony of Philippines there. And what Philippines do with these steels was coconut spirit. So they
Lambanos.
used, they caught where the flower of the coconut is growing and collect the sweet juice, the sap, and ferment it. And after fermented, distill it. And also they used to drink it fermented. And that's a tradition that is still alive today in the south of Jalisco and Colima. We call it tuba, and it's an amazing drink. And one of the proofs that this exchange of technology is happening this is all the region of South Jalisco, coastal, and Colima, the producers of mezcal called tuba to the fermentation liquid, to the fermented liquid. And tuba doesn't exist in any Mexican language, in any indigenous Mexican language. So tuba is a word that was imported, and they learned it from the Philippines.
Hmm.
So definitely we're drinking a spirit that is a consequences of the exchange of technology and knowledge.
That's beautiful. So I see
So
we've only got 3 minutes left, and we have to cover the Sotol yet.
so yeah, send me by mail some questions, and I will be more than glad to keep sharing this. Sotol, let me stop sharing.
Beautiful.
And La Higuera, Sotol, Cedrosanum, right?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. I
Yeah.
started mislabeling them. I literally printed the wrong labels because we had done the other tasting. I don't remember when we poured three of the Sotols, and yeah, I almost used the wrong one. I'm not the guy to ask. I don't know from Des Illyrian. Des
Was
Illyrian.
um, for me to jump into the Sotol was a kind of a surprise. I never thought on having a brand or representing Sotol. Um, but one of my clients of Raicilla in Europe asked me, "Hey, do you know any Sotol brand that I want to bring Sotol to Europe?" So I called one of my closest friends in Sotol, that it was at that time Jacob Jaques of Don Cuco, and I asked him to if he wanted to sell Sotol to to this company, and he explained me some issues like family issues of how they divide the profit of the company, and at the end he pushed me like it will be better for me if I make liquid for your brand and not sending my own brand
Hmm.
to make small words. So that in that moment I start selling Sotol
So
with
now,
Higuera brand.
so
And
Sotol is a specific kind of mezcal. Is that correct?
yes
Are
and
you,
no.
come on, Lou.
Oh,
You're better
come
than that.
on.
Yes
You're
and
better than
no.
that, Lou.
Hey, sometimes I find it's easier to ask the question that way. So anyway, so it's a kind of mezcal. Is that accurate, Esteban?
Yes, it's accurate, Blue.
We've
And
got a
let's just
series. We've got a question being asked by one of the bartenders here. Like, what is so tall? So, what is so tall?
Sotol is a spirit from a plant that the scientific community named it as a Dasylirian. But locally and in the communities and the countryside of Mexico, we know it as a Sotol or Cucharilla or Sotolillo or Palmilla and many other names. So uh, Sotol has a denomination of origin that covered 3 states, but also this DO is really bad made because the plant, Dasylirium plant exists in many states of Mexico. And
And
Roberto was just explaining that is also in Sonora. We just send a batch that is made out of Oaxaca, and we know that the community that produced Tuchi and Tepe in the north of Jalisco, south of Durango, produce also Sotol, and et cetera, et cetera. So the plant is Dasylirion. Dasylirion has recognition, the scientific community recognized 21 varieties of Dasylirion. So what we wanted to do as a brand was to bring to the conversation varieties. So we decided to isolate varieties using exactly the same technique, same water source with the same vinata, and put it out there and ask the consumer to try it together and figure out if the variety express themselves. Because there is amazing brands that talks and promote the terroir, like mountain sotol, desert sotol, and not much focus on the variety. So we wanted to increase this discussion, adding this as a project. So the process for making this sotol that you have today is harvest the plant that is similar to agave because the evolution of the plants happen at the same stages. So they look similar, but the DNA is completely different. So you cut the leaves, you extract the heart, you roast it underground in the same style of oven as any other mezcal, and, and then grind it or mill it, ferment it in a wooden tanks, and distill it twice in a very, very similar operation as any central baile distillery of Oaxaca.
but one of the things that fascinates me about Sotol is, whereas with the agave, like it's you get one shot. You're either going to let it reproduce or you're going to use it for booze. And I guess there are other things you could do, but you can't let it reproduce and then use it for booze. But with Sotol, it reproduces multiple times before it's ever harvested, right?
Yep, yep, yep. The Sotol plant makes quiote after the maturity that the plant arrives to this maturity around 4 to 5 years, depends on where the plant is growing. And after that year, they pop up little quiote and make seeds every year.
And so is there a point at which the plant is done, or can you just let it go in perpetuity? Can it go for 50 years and get bigger and bigger and bigger? Like what happens?
No, plant is they can go old, definitely, but it arrives to the point that they cannot go bigger than a size. Also, they make a little like a trunk, and the piña is a little ahead of the ground, and start looking more like a yucca kind of when it's really older. But they cannot just grow as bigger as the time can let them. So they have a maximum size as any other plant.
And I'm sure there's a whole discussion, Lou. Like when you ask any mezcalero when is the right time to culture agave, they
Right.
have 35, 50 different answers to that, right? When is the right time?
If
So
you've
I'm
got
sure in
40
Sotol,
mescaleros, you get 50 answers. That's correct.
exactly. So I think in Sotol it's even more complex because you don't have a marker that is as specific as your quiote, I think, no?
It's the size of the piña that you can extract that is gonna make the jimador that to choose what plant to extract. So you have to look after piñas that arrives minimum to 12 kilos to make that worth it.
Beautiful.
Yep. And
Okay.
one of the consequences in the nature of this reproduction is they make packed families of sotols in the desert. And it's so packed that the new seeds can arrive to the soil.
Oh no.
They literally don't fall down when they
No,
produce
no,
this.
they have, it's so packed of sotols and leaves that they have no chance the new seeds to arrive and have an opportunity to grow. So also there is an interesting projects with the government to have to extract older plants to make spaces on the ground to make the new seeds get a chance. So also is part of the sustainability to extract mature plants to give chance to new seeds to grow.
It's sort of
The
the
same
opposite. That's fascinating. You
it's the
have to
same as
extract.
it's the same as a pine forest that people wants to use it for commercial things and keep the forest healthy. So you cut some of the pines to make the other grow, because otherwise these small pines never get sun enough to grow. So it's kind of a similar treatment.
So we had a really interesting question here that I hadn't thought about. What do you call a distillery that makes so tall?
Vinata.
Oh, it is a Vinata.
It
Okay.
is a vinata. And it's a very funny moment. Also, some sotoleros recognize that they call it mezcal to the piña just after they cook, because we know mezcal means cook. Agave is a contemporary word to describe the plants. But if we go back then, before scientific community recognizing varieties, if you have a cooked piña of a plant that you extracted from the desert, you may call it mezcal.
That's really interesting. Yeah,
So
yeah.
the people call it sotol to the plant in the desert. And then they call it mezcal to the piña after get cooked and roast. And then they call it sotol to the spirit. So for that reason also, the people get confused for a long time if sotol was just another mezcal from the north of Mexico.
That's really fascinating. What?
I was typing an answer to a question, so
Yeah,
we could, yeah.
but I also do have a question about that. I think, at least in my experience, a lot of the guys that do Sotol also work other species of agave, no?
Yeah.
It's not either you do one or the other. Usually
Exactly.
when you find one that does one, they're like international species, I guess. Different agave, like Dicylidion and agave.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, and we got some notes here from not Amy, but her husband Doug Smith, that he's found 150 kilo sotols up in his territory in Sonora.
Do it. Do
And
something with
I
it. Cook
I
it.
guess we should celebrate that because that's a
Yeah.
lot more booze. So cool.
I want to try it.
Yeah. And something just
Okay.
that I would like to mention about Higuera is that, a little what you were saying, Esteban, to open the conversation about different species of Dicylidions and how those different species have different flavors. I don't think we have the chance to do that with any other brand that I know of. They're usually Dicylidium willeri, which is usually their way of saying we found a lot of sotol laying around, and we sort of think that it all comes from the same species. So I think it's a great treat, and it's lovely that you are making that. Because even the one time that Lou and I wanted to source sotol, we had to ask the producer to send us a picture to sort of try to understand which distillerium they were using. So I'm sure you guys, it was a complicated matter to work with the producer to tell them separate this Sotol from this Sotol from this Sotol, no?
Yes and no. He was ready to do it. He was
Awesome.
so ready to do it, and so that make very easy for us to achieve the goal, and also we have a couple of new batches ready to go in of Dacilirium Bernaldieri, Dacilirium texanum, and another Dacilirium that just has local name that this guy called Rojizo, and they don't know exactly what scientific name that plant has.
Or maybe it
But
doesn't have it yet, right? Maybe that
maybe.
it hasn't
So,
been, yeah.
but as they have just 21, and Desert somehow has a lot of research from Arizona University, from New Mexico, and other state USA universities. We can be quite sure that they spend a lot of time doing this research of plants, but hopefully we can find what type it is.
Great.
Nice. So, okay, so we are now 10 minutes past our time, so we're going to have to wrap it. I will say that Jeffrey Markovich was very excited about your Los Gigantes. And so he's going to want to hear about that, Esteban. So I'm just going to give you his email address, and you can send him some pretty pictures of those beautiful agaves. Deal?
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to send you over to the other side, and we're going to wrap it up quickly with our friend Arik. So I'll catch you soon, Esteban. Thank you.